Hello there, lads and ladies. Welcome finally back to another comic review, and today we are going to be doing Godzilla Dominion. Now, with Godzilla Dominion, we've got a very interesting way of narration, and I actually kind of hoped that they would take this into the Apple TV series for Godzilla, and hopefully the now unfortunately cancelled Kong Netflix series. Unfortunately, I would like to have seen that anime. That would have been quite interesting. But yes, the narration in this comic takes a bit of a difference. It's no longer focusing on the humans, it's more focusing on Godzilla and his escapades around the world with other kaiju, which is basically like a breath of fresh air. This is something like the people have been wanting to see for the longest of times. And if you're wondering why I'm wearing this cap, I'm celebrating the recent win of Brighton over Man United. Get in, boys. Seagulls, let's go. But that was brilliant. I completely missed it. It was at the Amex as well. I completely forgot it was on yesterday. I didn't go to watch it because I was too encapsulated with the match with Munster yesterday and Toulouse. Still good. Still a good match that was. That was fucking brilliant. Really good. But yeah, like to be honest, Man U really deserved to lose that game. They did nothing to attack Brighton's defence or anything. Brighton played brilliantly. I'm surprised they didn't get more goals, but yeah, we can only go up and up really with Brighton. But yeah, it's quite surprising how easily the fans can turn on their teams really when it comes to stuff like that. So much for support really. But anyway, at the end of the day, we're here to review a comic, not talk about the football. So it starts off with Godzilla basically, with a narrator doing like this very documentary style, talking about Godzilla, the way he thinks, the way the world acts around him. It's very poetic how it's narrated, and I really like that, especially one bit when he talks about Mothra in a certain sense. It's kind of like hinted towards it. I'll talk about that in a bit. He comes across Skeeler, who is basically like this crab-like squid tentacle mouth-looking monster. Kind of like a crustacean, sort of, if you want to think of it like that. Um, each kaiju has their own unique help towards the environment. So Skeeler, since she's good at using ice abilities, she's actually used in the Antarctic to keep the polar ice caps like frozen, basically. Kind of like how Behemoth is used for the Amazon rainforest because his excrement can give like the forest like an ever growing like type of fertilizer basically. So each kaiju has its uniqueness to the environment, unlike King Ghidorah was when he was just a destroyer. He was an alien from this world, from a different world basically. He was just sent here to dominate, whilst he was like lying to the other kaiju to say like, we have to destroy the world to better it basically. But then who's going to question a tyrant dictator that's stronger than you and willing to kill you to get the job done basically? It's partly why Rodan basically sided with him in the film, because he was just stronger. That's how it works basically in the animal kingdom. If you're the alpha, you are dominant basically. That's how it is really in most things. You show your dominance and easily you can just do whatever you please really. But I like how it also goes into explaining like Godzilla's change of mind really, because they did this in the original where Godzilla was like, he was a template for like all of the horrendous things that went on in the war, like nuclear war and stuff like that. He was meant to be like a template for like what nuclear war would do to a world basically, and that's it basically. But then as the films went on, like when Godzilla Raids again came around, it was the same sort of thing. But then they added like the fix of like, oh, what if we put like two kaiju together? Then later on down the Showa era, it kind of like then turned into him being like a friend of humanity. But they don't explain what shifted in him basically. In this book, they kind of explain a little bit of what shifted in Godzilla by explaining the symbiotic relationship between him and Mothra in a very unique way. Basically, he feels the pain of the planet as his own pain. So it's kind of forced on him by Mothra to feel the pain of the world, basically. And I'm starting to think that that might be the same case with Mothra. Maybe Mothra isn't like protecting the planet out of some like unselfish like gain or something. I feel like she's only protecting it to protect herself in a certain sense. But then, if that's the case, why would she then sacrifice herself for Godzilla? And then it makes complete and utter sense. She realizes if she can't protect the planet, then she would put on to Godzilla her pain, basically, of like feeling like the world be destructive as it is. So it gives him an idea of what it feels like to be in her position at all the times, basically. Which is a very poetic sense of like, I want you to feel my pain through my eyes, basically, which is a really lovely thing to see in like this comic. It's so deep and so really philosophical to a point of like it bringing a tear to your eye, because it's something that we as humans struggle to do unless we are in the same situation. It's like me, a civilian, understanding what a soldier goes through every day. I wouldn't, because I'm not in those positions at all times, really. And like, it's not a life that you can expect a soldier to just like easily come back into when it comes to civilization. Like, you can understand why an awful lot of soldiers suffered PTSD, because they were put in positions that no human could handle, really. Like shell shock was a thing in the 1914s to 1918s, and then to like the Second World War, basically. People just thought that they were mad. They just thought that they lost their minds and stuff like that. But no, it was a legitimate unsettling thing that happened, and you can only experience that if you did the same things, basically. So I kind of love the idea of Mothra gifting this ability to him. Well, I say gift, it was kind of forced upon, but at the end of the day, it's still a gift where he's able to sense all kaiju, where they are, what they're doing, and the positions of them on the planet, basically. That kind of gives a more exceptional explanation to why he now like somewhat protects humanity. He's not a protector, he's still neutral. I mean, if he's threatened, or if like anyone that's an ally of him is threatened, he will take it upon himself to destroy them, as it shows later on in the book. Anyway, he's fighting with Skeela and then tosses her away into the sea. She realizes she can't get what she wants, basically, which is like this radioactive device that's under the sea bed. So she scurries off. He notices that he won't be seeing her anytime soon. He's tired, he's battered, but he still carries on. He swims through the currents to try and give him some sort of energy, due to the fact that radioactive toxins and all that are in the sea at all times. So at least it's feeding him, it's keeping him sustained. Because the last place where he would rest with radioactive levels being at an all-time spike was when Serizawa came to blow up the area, to kind of like give him that strength, basically. But now that that area is gone, it's no longer a thing, basically. And I like how they actually hint towards that. You actually get to see like an animated drawing of Serizawa. It's a very well done drawing. I feel like they did a very good job of actually capturing the look of Serizawa. Just saw a picture of him, but it was a close-up. Oh no, I have to go back to that one. I can't seem to find it. That's a picture of Serizawa. Very well done, actually. Yeah, so after that little fight with Skeela, the narrator then talks about the symbiotic relationship between him and Mothra, how they're able to sense kaiju and all that stuff. Again, a beautiful explanation of how Godzilla was able to kind of make that shift between like a said neutral destroyer kaiju into like this from this mindless alpha just wanting to prove his dominance, to still wanting to prove his dominance as the alpha, to a somewhat protector of the planet, because now his own existence is at stake. This is kind of like basically like a ultimatum of like if you don't protect the planet, then you are as good as dead also, which is kind of a type of tough love that I was expecting Mothra to give Godzilla, basically. It kind of shows that scene where she sacrifices herself in front of Godzilla to King Ghidorah was kind of like an act of defiance, basically, towards like control and dictatorship. Something that those two share, that to a degree, basically, that I really honestly love about that movie is you don't have to talk the talk to show that you can walk the walk, really. And Mothra was all that, basically. Although she was small, she was dainty, she was seen as a peacekeeper, she was willing to throw down to protect what was dear to her, basically, and she was willing to protect the world and to protect Godzilla, basically. And I feel like in one way, shape, or form, Godzilla does the exact same thing. I feel like he honors like Mothra's wishes by doing the good deeds that he does, basically, for the planet. But I feel like it is kind of constricting him. I feel like there is some sort of control there by having Mothra like give him this pain, so it's kind of enforcing him to do it. So I feel like it's not a 100% choice of Godzilla to protect the planet. It's a must, basically, because of this pain that he's suffering. You know, I might be focusing too much on the pain, but it's just an interesting fact that he can feel the pain of the earth, basically. It's just interesting, though. Anyway, we then cut to Behemoth taking on Amulek. Amulek basically is trying to fight over the area of the Amazon. He's getting the he's getting the upper hand of Behemoth until Godzilla shows up, when he realizes that if they both fight over the same area, then there's going to be no resources left for anyone, especially after Dr. Russell basically opened up the entire well, she didn't open up the entire one. She just woke up one kaiju, King Ghidorah, that then woke up so many others. So now there's very little resources to anyone, really. So he has to put a stop to this. Amulek quickly yields to him and then goes on his merry way. Godzilla then ends up swimming through the currents to try and find a new area of rest. Excuse me. And then comes into contact with another kaiju that has been captured by this oil rig company, surrounded by submarines and helicopters and all that stuff. I cannot remember the name of the kaiju. It's like a squid octopus type thing. What's the name of it? Titanus Nakika. Nakika, yes. So it's kind of like a squid creature. Godzilla lets Nakika loose. Nakika heads off on a merry way, and then Godzilla takes it upon himself to destroy the facility after they tried capturing him too. It shows that, you know, the kindness that he's giving is not out of like his own heart, basically. That's kind of where Mothra goes wrong as a kaiju. She is very peace-loving and very giving, but I feel like, you know, she gives help way too easily in a certain sense, which is another thing I wanted to talk about when it came to the third movie, where Godzilla, Rodan, and Mothra had to take on King Ghidorah. She tried like convincing the other two, like, we have to defend the world. They're not buying it. They just want to argue and fight. Meanwhile, Mothra goes off by herself to take on King Ghidorah. And I'm thinking to myself, that's brave, but you're in your lava form. If you die, you're dead. That's kind of where it showed like the inexperience of Mothra, because it was like maybe the third or fourth time we might have seen her. So, well, it's actually like the original Mothra, these are her children. So then you wouldn't think that the experience from the old Mothra would go to this new one. So that kind of shows the inexperience of this young little lava Mothra to be willing to take on like this alien creature. But of course she has grown up since then, and she's gotten the experience from then, so she's a little bit wiser. Whereas Godzilla has never died. Like, well, at least this Godzilla. I mean, it's had different like variations of it. Like you had Dagon, you had like the original like 1954 version and all that. But it's a very wise creature. It has very intellectual, animalistic instincts that's helped it to survive all this time. So it has to be wise to an extent for it to have survived so long. It has to have that type of like dogmatic instinct to stay alive, basically. So it takes down the facility and then goes on its merry way again to fight this weird-looking piranha monster with all of its little fishes all around it. Basically, it kind of like swarms Godzilla. After it only gets one bite in on Godzilla's neck, he takes the tail of the fish and just completely pulls the spine out, like really graphic looking, like fantastically done art on that. And then that like gives the other fishes like a warning as to like, okay, we're not messing with this one, so we're swimming off. Then it all comes to this fight with Titanus What is it? Tiamat. I think it's Tiamat. This very serpent-looking kaiju. I believe it's Tiamat. Yes, Titanus Tiamat. A very gorgeous-looking creature, actually. That's Tiamat, and that's Nakika. Very good-looking designs, actually. I very much enjoy these designs. They're very gorgeous. I love the light teal-blue look on certain kaijus. They look really gorgeous. Anyway, he kind of announces himself, very over-the-top alpha dogmatic style. He makes his intentions clear. Tiamat has time to prepare herself for the upcoming fight. This is where she takes it upon herself to surprise Godzilla out of the dark, wrapping around him and like embedding her sharp scales into him. He took it upon himself to sharpen his dorsal plates on the rocks above him as he went in, so it's to prepare for stuff like that. So she can't fully tighten around him, because if she did, she'd cut herself, basically. So she kind of has to like loosen a little bit around the areas of his neck and tail, so he's not fully constricted, which gives him like plenty of room to try and like wriggle out of her grasp. Excuse me, a bit on the sick side. So he's very good at swimming. He's a very adept swimmer, but against Tiamat, it's definitely not the most favourable position. So he tries his hardest to try and swim to the surface. He's very weak at the moment, but he still was willing to take on Tiamat to try and find a place of rest. It shows the like pure determination that Godzilla has, really, and why we've come to love him so much. So he swims towards the surface, but he doesn't know which way is up and which way is down. So really, it's kind of like a guessing game. He knows that if he mucks this up, it could be the death of him, basically. But he took the chance and just swam to the surface. And to which point he then manages to get a foot on land. He uses his tail to swipe Tiamat off of him, and then stomps on her head, not killing her. It's just to like give her a message of like, you know, like you better surrender or I'm killing you. And then one final hiss from Tiamat is kind of like that defiance type of deal, like as a warning, basically. But nope, Godzilla is just like getting ready to fire his atomic breath off at Tiamat. To which case, when she looks in his eyes, you can kind of see like the killer intellect there. You can tell when someone is trying to kill you when you look at someone in the eye and they give you that look. You know, that sort of deadpan, like looking into your soul and reaching in for your soul type of like death look. You know, I feel like we've all seen it once in our life. I feel like I've seen it plenty of times when I've been in certain situations where it's not been too pleasant, really. I've been in fights before, but there have been only like a couple of times where someone has tried to kill me, but it has been very lucky that there have been people around, or I've been able to defend myself quite thankfully, really, because it's not pleasant to see that look on someone. You know, it's like, oh, this is serious. You're serious. You really want to kill. It's that serious. So Tiamat then gets the message that like, okay, if I fight, I'm going to die. So she just takes the opportunity to back down and then go on a merry way. He's happy not to continue the fight, basically. He continues on through the cave to then the narrator explaining that there was another one that came before here that defeated Godzilla to move him out of this place of rest, which was a skull of Kong. Not the Kong you and I know and love, but the old Kong. This is more than likely a subspecies, well, not subspecies, it's probably from the same species of Kong. This one was much larger, more than likely a distant cousin of Kong or something like that, because the place where Earth and the Hollow Earth meet are interchangeable, basically. So it's a possibility that this Kong could have gotten in this place of rest as a way of trying to maybe get away from the skull crawlers during like the massacre of the Kong species. You know, the massacre that thankfully Kong wasn't involved in. He was able to be hidden for an awful long time, and then until he was a little bit older, he was able to be strong enough and big enough to defend himself and like keep Skull Island preferably safe away from the skull crawlers, basically. And so it ends there when he basically calls the other kaijus to rest for one final time, and then it just cuts to his face as it says to be continued. Very good comic, very beautifully and eloquently put between the narrator's explanation and very little human contact. What was interesting though is that you do see humans in the background, like not just like in tanks and planes and subs and stuff like that, but like there are people in the background just minding their own business. Like, yeah, there are people looking at Godzilla, but it's not like, oh, Godzilla. It's sort of like, oh, Godzilla, you know. That's kind of like a nod. I kind of like that because it's like a nod to our current day and time where we're so self-obsessed and distracted with like technology and stuff like that, where we just don't see danger around us, basically. And I kind of like how it gives like that little nod to, you know, how our modern day society is progressing in the way of technology, where it can be like technology has been very beneficial towards mankind, but it can also be a detriment, basically. Like imagine driving along the road and you're on the phone talking. You shouldn't be on the phone talking, but you know you just happen to like know what was the score of the game, but you can't wait and all that shit, and then you like lose your life like slipping off of the road because you lost control because of your lack of concentration. It was the same thing here. Those two kaiju, Skyla and Godzilla, could have been fighting one another and then ended up on the beach with those people, and they wouldn't have noticed because they're too busy on their phones. It's just the small little instances that I try to overthink too much, because those things do happen. You know, you have to kind of like look into certain events as they arise, basically. You know, before they arise. You know, it's just like predicting things that could happen before it happens. It's like when you drive and you see cars coming towards you, you then need to think, right, will they take a left or will they take a right? You have to be prepared for both options to happen, basically. So, yeah, it's just something like that. Just it's something I'm rambling about. Sorry, guys. So yeah, that was Godzilla Dominion. Done an awful lot of uploads this week. I might take probably a 3-day break or so. What I might do actually is no. I'm gonna upload Elden Ring for you guys tomorrow, and then after that, I'm going to take like another 3-day break because I feel like you guys have just been bombarded so much with videos this week. Either it been like small little vlogs and all that stuff. I just had so much to get out, and I think it's time for a little bit of a rest. So. Tomorrow I'll be giving out an Elden Ring gameplay, hopefully the last one, and yeah, it'll be time to finish off that beautiful game, really. It's been fantastic to play, and I can't wait to show you something else that will come later on within the week, basically. It'll be interesting. So, with that, lads and ladies, I thank you ever so much for watching, and yeah, I'll see you all in whatever I do next around here. Take care, my friends.